Hello?
Hello, spooky, scary skeletons. 'Tis I, Antonio D'Amico. This is Pointy Hat, and welcome to Witch Lich. That's right, bet you had thought you had seen the last of this little spooky series I've been making. This is a show where I take my little magic wand and wave it around a D&D class to make a brand new Lich out of it. A Lich is an undead spellcaster, and I feel like wizards being the only ones that get to have fun being Liches is unfair, so we're making some brand new ones. It's like the death metal version of a fairy godmother makeover. Now, let's pretend you don't know how to read YouTube titles as I decide which one of the D&D classes will be my next victim. Nope, not yet. Not yet. Keep trying, buddy. Maybe one day you'll be a real class. Aha! Let's make a Druid Lich.
You can call me poison ivy. You're not gonna make it out alive. Never gonna make it out. Never gonna make it out.
We've made the Intoner, the Bard Lich that remains immortal as long as someone remembers their magnum opus. We've made the Hierarch, the Sorcerer Lich that stays alive as long as the descendants from their bloodline are alive. And based on the many comments on my Hierarch video, y'all want to see a Druid Lich real bad, and I always aim to please. So let's go. Oh, and also, watch those Lich videos if you haven't. I'm pretty proud of them, and the reception for both the Intoner and the Hierarch is beyond anything I could have possibly wished for. They are, to date, the two concepts I've made for the channel that people have enjoyed the most, I think. I get messages about how people are using them in their games on a daily basis, and that's honestly amazing and everything I wish for when I do these silly little videos of mine. So let's see what we can do with some good old druids. So a little introduction on how we give a class the Lich treatment around these parts. In order for something to feel like a Lich, it has to 1. Deliberately choose undeath. What distinguishes Liches from the many other undead monsters in the Dragon game is choice. Once again, not interested in mental gymnastics about how someone could maybe possibly be forced into Lichdom. To me, Lichdom is a conscious choice to become immortal. Liches are not wights reanimated by their hatred, they are not vampires reanimated by horniness, they choose undeath. Number 2, follow a ritual. Lichdom is the result of a ritual. This further emphasizes the whole use their free will to choose undeath, but also makes it possible for players to choose this path. The moment you put a Lich on the table is the moment where a player's edgy senses awaken from slumber. And the one question awakens in their mind. Can I do that though? Ritual allows the answer to be yes. Number 3, tied to a phylactery. The Lich's way of staying alive is by containing their soul in something, or someone, or whatever. This sort of emphasizes how removed from their humanity, or elfanity, dwarfanity, nominity, whatever, they have become. They have literally separated their souls from their body to not die. But this also gives them a weak point, something to destroy the Lich themselves. You can take it in the traditional direction, where a Lich will reform as long as their phylactery is intact, or you can go by more of a video game rule and have it so that if the phylactery is destroyed, the Lich is destroyed too. In any case, it gives the party a clear goal for their Lich cleanup services. And finally, number 4, Lichdom is not passive. The Lich actively works to retain their undeath. As I have explained before, this is something that 5th edition brought in with it, and while it's somewhat controversial, yet brave, I love it, making so that the Lich can't simply chill for all eternity on top of their spooky tower of doom and torment, like the internet's understanding of introversion, and actually go out into the world and actively work to remain living, or unliving, I guess. Sliving?
And if you sliv, you live.
Makes it so that the Lich is now an active player in the story with their own agenda that can be fought against. Cool, that's it. We have our recipe for Lichdom. Now, how do we bring the Druid flavor to this Lich cake? And how do I stop making food metaphors? Let's go. So I've made a whole video about Druids, explaining all about what their deal is. It's a good video. I give you a whole subclass for it at the end. It's the City Druid subclass, and spoiler alert, the Lich I'm making kind of goes against everything that subclass stood for, so go check it out if you haven't, or if you need a refresher on what a Druid is, you can click on the little eye on the top right corner of this video, or you can go to www.watchmycontentorelse.com. But let's see what parts of the Druid buffet we're picking to make our Druid Lich platter. Oh, that's another food metaphor, goddamn. So Druids are intrinsically tied to nature and its magical granola powers. Nature is literally their source of power, the reason why Druids can cast magic at all. Druids therefore act as protectors of nature, either because they believe it's the right thing to do, or because they are literally tasked with doing so. Now, if you know Druids, you already know what the biggest hurdle of making a Druid Lich is. Powerful Druids are basically immortal already. Not really, but functionally, yes really. All Druids gain the ability Timeless Body at level 18, and this is what makes them basically immortal. For every 10 years that pass, the Druid only ages 1 year. Now, imagine if this Druid is an elf, or a dwarf, or a gnome, or any of the extremely long-lived races of D&D. We're talking actual thousands of years here. That's basically on par with Acererak, whatever D&D names. Argue in the comments, I don't care. The poster boy for liches in D&D. Yes, level 18 is a pretty high level, but it's not like Lichdom is something easy to accomplish either. You gotta be a pretty powerful spellcaster to pull it off. So why would a Druid ever go for Lichdom? Well, right now is a good time as any to acknowledge that there are Druid liches in D&D. They technically exist. They're called Lichen liches. They are brand new to 5th edition, and there is not very much about them and are not what I'm trying to accomplish at all. As a stat block, we don't get very much at all. We basically just get they are Druid liches, and that's pretty much it. Fortunately, one of these Lichen liches has a whole adventure to herself. She's the one that introduced the concept in 5e in the Candlekeep Mysteries book, so we can get some more details from that adventure. Spoilers, by the way, for this super specific adventure in this years-old book. I'm gonna talk a bit about it. You've been warned. Go to this time if you are totally for sure gonna play this someday. It's your time to go if you care about that. Oh boy, I'm gonna spoil it now. Time to get out. 3, 2, 1. Dark Vapor is Lucas's dad. Okay, so this lady named Xanthoria, fantasy names, god. Xanthoria lived in a forest that was initially being attacked by undead, and she didn't like that, so she looked for a way to stop them from doing all that. And then she went crazy cuckoo coconuts and shifted her area of research onto becoming undead, since becoming undead seemed like a pretty sweet deal. She then made a deal with a demon whose name I refuse to pronounce until I absolutely have to whenever I have to make that demon video, to learn how to tie her soul to a sprite, a fae being with a much longer lifespan, turning the sprite into her living phylactery and turning herself into a lich. This is fine. I get the sense that this concept was conceived first and foremost as a villain for this adventure rather than to expand what Lichdom is and how it affects Druids. I think there are bits and pieces of the Lichen Lich that I like, but ultimately it's not really what I'm looking for, or what I think people look for when they hear Druid Lich. For one, it almost feels like the fact that she was a Druid is almost accidental. Like, it feels like this is just another method that anyone could take to become a Lich, rather than something a Druid specifically would do. I guess it involves the Fae, and Druids are sort of maybe sometimes associated with the Fae. I don't know. It feels like it could have been anything with a long lifespan, to be honest. One thing that also bothers me about the Lichen Lich is that we basically only know of Xanthoria achieving this. And it feels like her path to Lichdom is extremely personal and extremely tied to demonic influence.
I sold my soul.
Yes. Let it come out. Let that come all the way out.
Once again, does not feel like a general druidic way to achieve Lichdom, but rather how this character specifically did it. Also, again, this absolutely does not solve our issue about druids being basically already immortal. Xanthoria was a half-elf. It's not like she was scheduled for death anytime soon if she reached level 18, so that doesn't solve our biggest hurdle. How are we gonna do that then? Are we gonna make it so that only human and half-orc and goblin druids go for Lichdom? That's boring and limiting and a cop-out. And here at Pointy Hat Industries, we're not in the business of peddling boring cop-outs. So, what if the reason for a druid to become a lich was selfless? What if they wish to share this immortality that they have? What if it tied lichdom to what druids are all about? Their connection to nature and their wish to protect it? That would make for a pretty solid druid lich, don't you think? Let's make that. When we think of immortality, many of us think not of people, but of the land. Long after we're dead and buried, the trees that grow on the same soil will feast on our bodies and grow even stronger, perennial, immortal. But no one knows how delicate the life of nature is more than the ones that guard it. Nature needs to maintain a constant balance to thrive, to survive, and it only takes someone willing to put that balance at risk for their own selfish motives to destroy it, and kill the land that relies on it to remain immortal. Nature cannot defend itself from these attacks, but its druidic guardians can. And when one of these druids is unable to fight off the forces that seek to destroy the land the druid protects, a blight is born. Through a particularly lengthy ritual, the druid melts both their soul and their body to the land they are trying to protect, killing the druid in the process and creating a phylactery, giving rise to a blight. Contrary to other liches, a blight's phylactery is not housed in an object or even in another living being. The blight's phylactery is called a death bloom, and it's not an object or a person, but a place. A place at the heart of the space the druid sought to protect. The place where the ritual to become a blight was performed. This ritual requires such extreme control over nature that only Archdruids are known to have performed it successfully. A Blight's goal when turning to Lichdom is not to extend their own lifespan, but rather to share their immortality and, more importantly, their will with the land they seek to protect at all costs. In melding the Druid's soul with the land, they have given the land a way to defend itself against its enemies. The will of the Druid and the will of the land are now one and the same, and they can now fight back as one against the forces that threatened them before with a much darker, more powerful magic. In a sense, both the Druid and the land have achieved Lichdom together, the Druid becoming a Blight, and the land they have decided to meld with, often called a memorial. Memorials and the Deathbloom phylacteries at their center are as varied as the Druids that created them when embracing Lichdom. Lichdom transforms memorials into places where nature grows in an unnatural way. Fungi growing tens of feet high, vines that extend for miles, or flowers that cover every surface as far as the eye can see. A memorial has its own will, and because they are born out of a need to defend itself, it can fight back against those that wish to destroy it, with its mushrooms releasing deadly spores, its vines using their thorns as weapons, or its flowers scattering poisonous pollen. Similarly, the Blight that inhabits a memorial can manifest a semblance of their body anywhere in the memorial as a more concentrated form of defense against the intruders, creating a body out of lichen, moss, or flowers anywhere in the memorial. When a Druid turns to Lichdom and becomes a Blight, they have accomplished their goal of protecting the land they were watching over. But in so doing, they have also doomed nature and anything else that isn't part of their memorial. In order for the Blight and their memorial to continue to live their own life, they must continuously grow and expand. A Blight and the land they have melded their soul with is less of a thriving grove and more of a cancerous growth that absorbs anything at its borders as it grows to perpetuate its own life. It consumes and incorporates anything in its vicinity, including other lands. Thriving and diverse ecosystems get taken over and flattened into the homogeneous memorial. The memorial remains untouched by the hands of man and any that wished it harm. But when seeing the constant consumption of the memorial and the destruction of nature at its borders, one has to ask the Blight, was it worth it? That's cool, I think. The Blight calls back to what makes Druids, well, Druids. The method to achieve Lichdom feels very Druidy, with their phylacteries being a place rather than an object like the regular Lich or a person like we have done before with the Intoner and the Hierarch. The motivation to turn to Lichdom being to defend nature is the most Druidy thing it could be, and it circumvents the whole why would a Druid turn to Lichdom, but it ticks off our must continue to work towards Lichdom on its head in an interesting way, because while the Blight themselves might not want to destroy everything around the memorial by incorporating it into itself, that's literally the only way to keep the Blight and the memorial alive. And they've literally sacrificed everything to keep it alive. Imagine the adventures that this sets up for your party. I can think of a bunch. Like, imagine an adventure where a Circle of the City Druid, if you don't know what that is, you can find that subclass on the Druid video for free. A Circle of the City Druid was once the ruler of a country whose citizens lived and relied on nature in a perfectly symbiotic relationship, with their cities being marvels of bioengineering. But when a particularly militaristic neighboring country declared war on them, they weren't strong enough to fight them off. So the Druid ruler turned herself into a Blight and the entire country into a memorial. With their newfound Lich powers, the Blight and her country fought back against the invaders and won the war, defending her country and way of life. But now, the previously peaceful and natural country is now expanding its borders as their memorial grows, threatening the lives of not just the country that previously tried to invade them, but all other nations that border them, assimilating them politically and literally. The heroes would have to go into a nation-sized memorial with the Blight ruler knowing their every move and make their way to the capital city where the Deathbloom phylactery of the Blight is located to destroy it, having to fight not just the people loyal to their ruler, but the land itself. Come on, you gotta admit that sounds at least a little bit cool too. The Blight could appear to them at every turn, giving you plenty of opportunities for the heroes to learn about her and her motivations, like I outlined in my villain video. I think that would make for a really cool campaign. Or how about playing with the whole a Lich chooses undeath of their own accord? Fawn is the latest satyr in a long line of Druids that have been tasked with defending a grove that is particularly important to the Feywild, as it houses a Fey crossing, a portal leading directly into the Feywild. But a portal to the Feywild often gives rise to problems in the material realm, and the townsfolk that live close to Fawn's grove have grown progressively tired of the Fey incursions into their homes. When a baby was found to have been replaced with a changeling, the townsfolk decided that enough was enough and attacked the grove. Fawn tried to stop them, but he wasn't powerful enough to do so, and that's when primal magic itself, combined with the chaotic magic of the Feywild, took matters in its own hands. The grove turned Fawn into a blight against his own will, and turned itself into a memorial in order to fight back against the townsfolk. Now, the grove is teeming with Fey and primal magic, and Fawn's soul, trapped inside the Deathbloom phylactery, can do little more than mitigate the damage it can cause as the memorial grows closer and closer towards the town. Finding a Fey grove that literally fights back is one thing, but will the party find a way to liberate Fawn from his fate as a blight? Or is he doomed to die along with his sacred grove to save the town? Or will the heroes decide to not side with the town at all and help the memorial, even if it goes against the wishes of the memorial's own blight? I don't know. You do, if you decide to play that. Hey, if my Druid player was going to be missing for a bunch of sessions for whatever reason, I would definitely conspire with them to set up a small arc just like this one. So yeah, it's just a shame that the Blight and the Memorial live only in the grove that is this little video. I mean, it's a given that this thing needs not just legendary actions, but of course lair actions. Maybe you could like unlock lair actions the closer you get to the Deathbloom phylactery. Maybe it grows stronger too. That sounds super cool and allows you to meet the Blight at early levels, and for them to become more of a threat as the heroes grow in levels and get closer to the Deathbloom. Yeah, good luck writing those. A whole evolving stat block? That's a lot. I'm sure glad not to be the guy that has to do that. What? You mean I'm the guy that has to do that? Well, you would be right, because I did. That's right, the evolving stat block of the Blight is in the description of this very video. It's been set up with a ton of lair actions that you can use on their own as the party travels through the memorial, but the Blight unlocks more and more of these lair actions as it manifests closer and closer to the Deathbloom. I'm pretty proud of that little evolving stat block thing, and it's there, sitting in the description of this video for you to grab for free. So go out there, grab a weed whacker, a whole bunch of herbicides, and go fight a Druid Lich. And that's it.
It's chocolate.
That's the end of the video. This one, sure. This one was a lot. As I said, y'all have been so enthusiastic with the Bard Lich and the Sorcerer Lich that I just had to do another video in this little series. I honestly don't know if I'll be doing more. It depends on how well this video does. So if you like it, now is really the time to pester those around you think would like this to go watch it. Share it on Reddit, share it on Tumblr, share it on Google+, Roblox? I don't know. I would say this is one of my favorite series to do here because I have so much freedom as to what to do, so I'm excited to hopefully do more. Okay, I still have a Feywild video to work on. Yep, still working on that 100k special. I know, it's funny, but you'll see why it's taking so long. For now, I'll see you in the next one. Be respectful with nature, clean up after yourself when you're camping or out there in the wild. What's the corny saying? Take only pictures, leave only footprints. Yep. Do that. Live, laugh, love. I wonder if people stay until the end of these ramblings ever. If you do, tell me in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Okay, thank you. Thank you if you stay. Thank you if you don't. Enough. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Mwah.
Slaying, living, and killing it